Hey guys, I just wanted to show you how I edit in Lightroom with some of my presets. If you want to purchase any of them, I'll link them in the link below. So I was just going to show you how I use some of my presets on a variety of different lighting situations. So this is just straight out of camera, and so I'll go ahead and apply the preset. And sometimes it looks totally fine on the first go. Sometimes you do have to tweak them a little bit just to get exactly what you're looking for out of it, but yeah, sometimes you apply it and it just looks pretty good straight away. Might up the exposure a little bit. A shortcut that I have really found helpful in editing is that if you go up here, you can see like under there what you're going to be affecting, and it can just be a little bit easier than like going in and trying to click on any of those sliders down there. So you can see I'm hovering over the middle bit and it says exposure. And yeah, if you just drag it a little bit up or down, you can kind of see how that's affecting that. And it's just a quicker way of doing it. Might try and like bump up the highlights a tiny bit just to make it pop. But overall, I think that looks pretty good. I probably wouldn't do a whole lot more to it. Usually I'll turn on profile corrections as well. So you can sort of see what that's done, like it's accounting for whatever lens you've got and the vignetting that it'll sort of have around like the outside edge there. So if you want to see like that's what it looks like without, that's what it looks like with. It's kind of a personal choice, but sometimes like I like to do that and then just like lower the vignetting a little bit on its own. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that one. Might go and add like a tiny bit of grain to it, just to sort of give it like a bit of detail. But overall, I'm pretty happy with that. Here's another photo of Petra from the other day. So yeah, let's go and apply Lennox to it. I am terrible at getting my horizons straight, so yeah, I'll just try and get that lined up so that everything is squared off. Like her face looks a little bit blown out to me, so I might bring the exposure down just a teeny tiny bit. And if you can sort of see, like her skin tones are a bit pink for my taste. So if you want to sort of see what color something is pulling, you can click on this little circle thing in the saturation sliders. I'll just bring it over there, and you can sort of see, like if you go really dramatic, you can see what that's affecting. And so it's like her skin's pulling quite orange, so I'll just kind of desaturate it a teeny tiny bit. Or you can just go in and move the sliders individually. Either one sort of works. Maybe bring a little bit of color back into it so it doesn't look too pale. But yeah, might maybe add like a bit more contrast. No, I think it looks fine like it is. Cool, so on to the next one. The previous ones were both pretty backlit, but this was from a really cloudy day on the beach in Byron. It had been like raining and hailing and everything, so the light's pretty flat. I'll go and apply the preset and just sort of like try and crop in a little bit, maybe a little bit more. Yeah, and so I'd probably maybe bring the highlights up a little bit, maybe bring those whites back just a bit, just so that there's a little bit more contrast. No, well, yeah, maybe up that contrast, up the highlights a little bit. His face is just like a tiny bit pink. Well, I think I like it better without. So I'll just go in there and sort of bring the saturation down of his skin. Maybe just warm it up a little bit more. Yeah, overall, I think that looks really good. Maybe just bring a little bit more color back into his shirt. Yeah, but I'm pretty happy with that. I think it looks good. The next one, as you can see, I like to shoot backlit generally most of the time. Yeah, apply the preset to it. I think it'll look a bit better, a bit warmed up. Normally when I'm trying to edit, I'll sort of be trying to get it to look how it looked in my head when it happened, sort of thing. Like, I don't like to go too much over the top with it. Bring the exposure down just a tiny bit. I would probably clone these ones out. You can just use the clone tool, or sometimes it's a little bit easier in Photoshop because you can just be a bit more precise with it. Might bring up the contrast just a teeny tiny bit. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good to me. Let's try this one next. So this one, let's go ahead and put the preset on it. To me, her face is just a little bit blown out. So I'd bring the exposure down just a little bit, and like the highlights as well, and that'll bring back a bit more detail into like that bit of her skin. Let's see, the whites, no. And then I'll probably just warm it up just a little bit. But I think like her skin's pulling quite like pinkish, which I don't necessarily want. But yeah, I think that looks pretty good. And then here's another shot where it is like, this was shot under an overhang outside, so it's just like lit with natural light. So let's apply the preset to that. Maybe just bring a little bit more light into it. Since the background is so white, might see what it looks to bring the whites just a tiny bit up. Maybe the highlights. No. Yeah, so I'm pretty happy with that for this shot. Yeah, so hopefully that gives you a little bit more insight into how you can kind of customize the presets for each photo, and if it doesn't look quite right straight out of the gate, these are usually the things that I would go to sort of alter it to make sure it looks as good as it can for each photo. Like, I'll play around with the temperature and the tint and a little bit of the contrast, but normally like I'll just adjust for like the whites or the highlights. And if you pull these sliders either direction, like, you can really see what it's going to affect. Like, the highlights is literally just going to affect like the highlights of the photo. And then the same with like shadows. You can use this to bring more detail back into the shadows. It sort of gives it more of like a matte, flatter look. But yeah, it's kind of like a stylistic thing, I think, what you sort of prefer. The whites obviously affects the whites of the photo. And then the blacks, yeah, same kind of thing. You sort of get the picture. And I don't usually do much with these. Desaturate a little bit, but other than that, yeah, and I'll play around with saturation depending what tones are actually in the photo. But yeah, that's pretty much how I would use those presets. Hopefully that helps. Let me know if you've got any questions, and if you'd like to purchase them, I will put the link below.